Hey everybody, it's Michael from Aurora Knife and Tool, and we just got a big order for these 5-year anniversary Aurora Knife and Tool Hive Mind and Truffles. These have sort of a blue jean top scale, or the port scale, and an aqua starboard scale with rose gold accents and bronze hardware, and this what we're calling an Event Horizon edge on these blades, kind of hand finished, etched. So there's a lot of these we're going to be making, so I thought that it would be good to go ahead and do a teardown video to kind of show you guys how it is that we go about tearing down our knives, and especially if you are doing them in a teardown yourself, to either modify it or just to clean it or just to look on the inside of it. That of course does not affect the warranty at all. But there are some things that you need to be aware of as you're doing it. So I wanted to kind of show that process to you. So the main thing that I try to do whenever we're working on this is make sure that I keep the knives separate, because the the lock face is what I'm trying to say. The lock face is hand ground as like the last step of the production process, which means that each lock face is like custom fitted to the liner lock, which is, has to do with like how it's fitting inside the knife. And so there's basically very little switchability between knives. So if you have two knives open, two, truffles, and you take them apart and then you get the parts mixed up, it can be difficult to get the exact same action. Usually it'll either introduce lock stick or lock rock, or play with the blade. So I try to make sure to keep them in little trays that then I number. So the way I'll tear it down is I'll do like, generally I'll put the blade inside the case by itself. And then I'll have like one scale inside the plastic and one scale outside. Just to kind of like, this is, I'm saying after I get it torn apart. But I'm using these trays here to keep all the pieces separate. And because these are numbered already, if you open them up halfway open, you can see like this is number 11. And on the back side it says S35VN. So what I'll do is I'll then go and do an engraving on the scales and the lock bar, just so that we don't get the pieces mixed up. So for the most part, it tears down like a regular knife. Again, this is the Roundhouse Lock 2.0. So I've got another knife that shows, or another video that shows how to take that down. This is a good example. There's a little bit of tension on this that is beyond what I am comfortable just cranking on. And so a lot of times what I'll do, and I don't know if other people do this, but I just to keep from ever stripping out a pivot, what I'll do is use like an actual like drill, or like, it's actually better if it's oh gosh, all my words are not working this morning. If it's an impact driver, that's actually better. If you have an 1/8 inch bit with an impact driver, that's actually better. But what I'll do is just, and if I'm going to be putting it down on the wood, I'll usually put it on something soft. All my teardown trays are like highly reflective, so they weren't really working for the video. So just getting it right over the top, and then just like really pressing down like a little tap. Usually I've got both hands holding it down, but I'm trying to, yeah. So I'll just like tap it a little bit, just in case there is some thread locker in there. There's usually very little, but every once in a while I'll have a pivot screw stripped out, and so just to avoid that. All right, so then the pivot and the pivot collar comes out, and then just the body screws from there. And again, I will occasionally do the same thing if I've got a body screw that doesn't immediately move with me. I'll sometimes get the drill out just to pop it, so that the thread locker is not, I'm not fighting the thread locker. technically the screws for the pivot, sorry, for the clip and the clip filler are separate sizes than the rest of the body screws, so you can kind of set those apart. If you're buying our titanium screws, they're all the same size. So just FYI for that. Occasionally I'll get a clip filler where the screw will come all the way out, but then the filler won't come out just because the tolerances are too tight. So sometimes you have to play with that. There's a little hole on the interior. So if you can't get the clip filler out, you can take the scale off and then poke something through that hole on the other side. Take the rest of these body screws out. All right, and then I'll lay it down. I guess I'll put it over on this for now. So there's a D shape right here on this this opening here, so you do have to make sure that you pull it straight up because it's, you know, you can kind of twist it out. Obviously, all of this is a little awkward doing it from a distance. Usually I'm right above what I'm working on. So take these guys down here. All right, pull these guys off, and then just the 2 barrel spacers, I'll set those aside. And then the little clip back spacer post right there. And then if I am taking off, if I'm doing a complete tear down, which of course I'm doing whenever I'm anodizing one of the units, I'm going to obviously clean it off too, but use a flathead screwdriver, or if you have a little plastic pry bar, that's usually better, just to get like right here, provide a little bit of oomph to snap that out. And then press through on this all-in-one button, and we'll take that apart as well. Take the collar out, put these guys aside, and of course, because I'm going to be anodizing, I'm going to take all the steel parts off as well, put those aside. And usually clean all those parts. Like I said, I'm going to engrave these because I know that I don't want to get them mixed up with any others. So like I said, this is number 11. So you can mute your mic at home. Here comes the engraver. Like I said, that's not really a step that you have to do unless you're tearing down multiple of these to do any kind of anodization or anything. And the way I did this is, it doesn't really matter, but I put the numbers kind of right there where it's hidden by the lock bar. I also put it in the lock bar where it's going to be facing down, so those two cover each other up. You know, they're not really visible. But yeah, and then this guy right here, this is like an all-in-one little piece where you've got the button, there's a spring, there's a little flathead screw in there, and then this barrel here. So if you take the Weehaw flathead works really well for this, but any small flathead that will fit in there, you just kind of go in there and rotate it until it drops in. All right, and then just hold the button, and then it helps if your fingers aren't greasy from doing a tear down. All right, so this is good if you want to either anodize the button or just clean it up, or actually for the first time I had somebody reach out and say that their button was rattling even when it was in the open and closed position, and so they went in and took the button apart, so that they could actually stretch out the spring to add some more resistance. You don't normally have to, I may need to get like a toothpick or something to poke this guy out. And the bags should come with a little extra screw. So, I mean, extra, yeah, screw and spring. So if you're having issues with that, you can swap out if your spring rather is messing up with you. Okay, I guess I'll go get a toothpick. All right, it's just going in there, poking this little guy out. I think I am at least. This is interesting. This is the first one I've had that's kind of stuck. All right, there we go. So this little guy comes out. That's your little flathead. The spring, it's in there as well. All right, and I guess while I've got it open, I'll go ahead and well, I'll just since I'm going to be tearing this one back down again, I won't clean it because it'll be cleaned again. But so this is all the pieces. It's the exact same process for Hive Mind, just a different blade shape and scale shape, everything. All right, so going back in reverse order, putting the spring back in, putting the little screw in there with the thread line up, putting the button back in, and this guy goes down there. All right. Then just make sure that the liner goes on the interior, the little leg here, which is what our Roundhouse lock is named after, is the little leg here. Then this snaps down on these posts. If you don't get a really snug fit because the posts are drilled and then pinged so that they fit really tight, you can take like a rubber hammer and on a flat, soft surface and tap the liner back flat if you have to. And the washer, and then we rebuild this guy on this side. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get this piece inside where the leg is sticking out there, and then also situated where it's flat and smooth. You may have to rotate it a little bit, and then the button goes back in there. You don't have to worry about the position of it yet. Just in is right. And then a washer, then blade, then the washer bearing, and then the other washer. And then it's up to you how you want to do it. Sometimes I'll just lay the barrel spacers in. Sometimes it becomes problematic doing it that way. So sometimes I'll screw them in first, but this one seems like it's going to cooperate. So, and the back spacer pin, back spacer. And this part can be really tricky because this flat D shape has to be rotated to where it's like, I don't know, perpendicular, like a 90-degree angle to the spine almost, because you see you got the D shape here as well. And so if you just put it in like this, it's not going to drop in because this bottom has to line up with that bottom. And so what I'll usually do is kind of pivot it out a little bit further and then press so that I get this in, and that's like the first thing. And then I'm holding this and just lift a little bit so that I'm holding that D shape in place while also getting the barrel spacer in line. That's the least nuisance of a way that I found to do this. And I did ask him about doing the D shape on the opposite side, but the problem is just that's kind of the trade-off with the all-in-one button is there's not space on the interior because there's a spring on the interior, so it's got to be round, not D-shaped. So the D shape has to be on the exterior of the all-in-one button. And then the same thing is just, putting the screws back in. Yeah, I think you probably get all that. Oh, I meant to show you, but this is the hole that the screw goes in. But then if it does get stuck for you, you can take something small and on the other side poke up through there to pop the clip filler out. I don't know what this is right here on there. Like I said, I'm about to tear this one back down again. But yeah, you get the drift. And again, if you're like just doing something like as simple as changing out the clip or something, I use the little plastic here to protect the scale, but obviously you can take that off. So rest of it goes back together. I guess I'll just go ahead and do it real quick, just so we can talk about alignment and that sort of thing as well. There's a lot of videos on how to adjust centering. I think Metal Complex has a really good one that I've watched before and referenced before. So if you have any issues with that, you can look at his video. But generally, the centering is pretty spot on. You can bend the lock bar a little bit to increase or decrease detent. If the action's a little soft or a little hard for your liking, but obviously if you bought it from me, or I mean if you bought it period, if you're having issues with the knife, none of this has to be stuff you have to do on your own. You can always send it back to me, and I can play around with it and get the action tweaked. So nothing that I have really run into yet has voided the warranty in terms of disassembly. There is some potential issues with getting things lost when you disassemble, which is why we include this pack. These are not really parts we expect to fail, but these are like the easiest ones for you to lose while you're disassembling. So we wanted you to have extras of those. I did have one person return a knife that he had left in the dryer, and the tip had broken off. But even that, we kind of came up with a resolution for that. So if you have an issue with your knife, don't ever be like, oh, it's probably out of warranty. Just go ahead and reach out to me. All right, so the action is pretty crisp on it. The centering is a little bit off. Yeah, it's pretty much spot on. Yeah, so every once in a while they'll go together and the action will not be quite right. And if the action was wrong to begin with, that's one thing. But if the action was right to begin with, tear it back down and just make sure that you've got, like even right here, I can kind of see, I don't know if you can see in here, but the liner is not fully set, which it might have been like you can hear that. So I didn't get the liner fully in there. But I mean, in terms of security and everything, it's fine, and the action is good. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But like I said, because I'm about to tear it back down. But you can also like tap it in if you need to. So yeah, so that's what it looks like to tear down and put back together. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And thanks for picking up either Hive Mind or Truffles. And if you're interested in our 5-year anniversary editions, we've got about 10 of each left. So, all right, thanks, folks.